Hi everyone, my name is Tim Plummer, and for those who don't know me, you probably all do, but I'm the main coordinator for this conference. I also run the Sydney Joomla User Group, and I'm the author of Learning Joomla 3 Extension Development, published by Pace Publishing last year. And in my spare time, I run a software business called Talent Software, where I've been developing Joomla extensions since about 2008 and selling them online. So there's a lot of reasons why you wanted to develop software for Joomla. There's a very big market of site builders. As we heard from Ron's keynote this morning, 5.5 million websites that use Joomla. And so there's a lot of people looking for add-ons to meet their particular needs. Joomla is very easy to customise, particularly with some of the new things in Joomla with framework on framework. You can do things like media overrides, so users can customise CSS files without losing changes whenever they upgrade, and really cool things like that. It's a very solid programming platform. It's object-oriented. It has MVC. It has access control. So out of the box, Joomla is a very powerful tool, and you can do a lot when you add on stuff to it. Now, the heart of the Joomla extension business is the Joomla extension directory, which is a big directory listing that all the developers put their software, and people can search on there through the different categories and find extensions that they might want to have a look at. Not all of them are paid extensions. There's a lot of free stuff on there too, but there is a lot of commercial stuff and a lot of freemium stuff where there's a free version and then a paid version that you get an extra value in. So we have 5.5 million Joomla sites. Out of that, about 4 million of those people are looking for Joomla extensions on the Joomla extension directory. That's at the peak time of year. Even at the downtime in the Northern Hemisphere summer, we still have 600,000 people looking at the extension directory per month. That's unique hits. So it's a lot of traffic, and it doesn't cost anything to be listed on the JET. So,
quick question. Summer here or summer in the Northern Hemisphere?
Northern Hemisphere.
So our winter?
Yes, our winter is the worst time. And if we look at this next slide, I actually got this stat from one of the JET editors. This is the stats for from July 17th to August 15th, and you can see there 612,000 unique users. And this is like the absolute worst time of year, so it only gets better than this throughout the rest of the year. You can see there that 64% of people are returning visitors, and 36% are new visitors. So there's a lot of new people coming, and there's a lot of people coming back. So it's a very good traffic source. When we look at extension directory, there's about 1,700 Joomla extension developers worldwide. So 4 million customers, 1,700 people developing software for it. There's not a lot of competition, so there's a lot of opportunity for new developers to come in and get into various niches. There's some people with up to 60 extensions, but there's also a lot of people with just one extension. On average, extension developers have about 4 extensions on the extension directory. And as of October, yesterday, we had 8,498 listings. And you have to remember also that when Joomla 1.5 became end of life, they took all the Joomla 1.5 extensions off the directory. So if you count all those Joomla 1.5 extensions that are still floating around as well, it's possibly double that number. There's a lot of Joomla extensions around. So the Joomla extension directory editors receive about 5 new submissions per day, and at any point in time there's about 160 extensions that are just sitting there waiting to be approved, but they have errors. The JET has a list of criteria that you must meet to get your extension listed on there, and if you don't meet one of those rules, then you have to resubmit it or make the change and resubmit it. So there's usually quite a few in the queue waiting to be fixed. The JET also manage 3,441 certificates each year, so they have a lot of contact with the developers, and they're very responsive in getting things fixed up if you have any problems. One great thing about Joomla is that they don't force any particular business model on you. You can have commercial, you can have non-commercial, freemium, whatever business model you like, you can pretty much do in Joomla. Unlike, say, WordPress, where their extension directory, everything has to be free, and they encourage a freemium model where you have a free version and a paid version. whereas Joomla you can have just a paid version if you want to. You don't have to have a free if you don't want to. Or you can just be completely free if you want to help other people out and have a community project. Extensions must be GPL licensed to be listed on the JED. There are people who do Joomla extensions that aren't GPL, but they don't get listed on the JED and they miss out on this massive traffic opportunity, so they're shooting themselves in the foot, I think. So just having a look at some of the stats from my business, just thought you might be interested. I'm a bit opposite from the JED as far as new visitors to returning visitors. A majority of my visitors to the site are new visitors, and I'm getting a couple of thousand hits per month. Out of that, about 35% of that is coming from the JED. So it's a pretty reasonable portion of the traffic coming from there. Because I've got a lot of Google organic search as well, before I had that it was a much larger portion. I think it was up to about 60% of my traffic used to come from the JED, so it's a very sizable amount. You can see that there are the different countries that the traffic's coming from. The United States is probably about 40% of my customers. Even though Netherlands, Italy and Germany are sort of lower down the list there, I would say that they're some of the other top customers as well. India, I don't think I have that many customers there, but obviously a lot of hits, so maybe harder to convert those people, I don't know. But yeah, it's just interesting to see that the different countries that people are buying the software from. So, like Google, the extension directory, the position that you're listed in the JED really matters. I don't know what the exact figure is, but with Google searches, I think it's something like 40% of the clicks go to the first position in Google, and then the rest is sort of distributed beyond that. So you get a lot more traffic being that first position, and I'm lucky enough to have the first position in the survey category at the moment, so I get some good traffic from that. Now, the way you get to the top of the category is with ratings and reviews. Previously, people could leave star ratings without leaving a review, and that was open to a lot of abuse, and so they changed that and made it so you had to leave a review as well as a rating. And most of it comes down to giving good customer support. If you give good support, people are going to be happy and they're going to write good reviews about you. Even if your software is the best software in the world, if your support's crap, you're going to get bad listings. You can have software that's pretty average or even a bit crap, but if people give good support, you'll get good ratings. So it's all about support. Keep the customer happy, help them out as much as you can. Now, the JED is actually going through a process of restructuring the software that manages the JED, and they're going to be changing the whole way that this rating and review process works. And they're going to be breaking it up into these 6 areas here. So there's going to be a score for functionality, a score for ease of use, a score for documentation, a score for support, and a score for value for money, and an overall score. So it's going to be a big game changer. It's going to shake things up a lot in the JED listings, and you'll see some that are at the top of the JED now that might move down and move around and stuff.
Are they going to do this by getting ratings or feedback from?
It's the same sort of thing, but instead of just having just one 5-star rating for the product, you're rating these different areas.
Oh, right.
Like in eBay, when you're giving feedback, you're rating the shipping time and all that sort of stuff. They'll just have the different rating things for each of these. So it's going to make a big difference. And so there's an opportunity to get in there now. If you can cover these areas of documentation, support, ease of use, you're going to get higher to at the top of the list than some established extensions that maybe don't have very good documentation or don't have very good support. So when it comes to pricing, I did a bit of research to see how much people are charging for Joomla extensions. The most expensive, like base price I could find was $499 US. The most expensive pro version I could find was $1,495 US. But a typical average extension for a paid variety is between about $29 and $59 for a year. Obviously there's a lot that are cheaper than that, and there's a lot that are more expensive, but that's sort of the average price. And I've experimented with pricing myself, and I found within that range usually works pretty well. So if you're setting up a Joomla extension business, there's not a lot that you actually need to do it. First thing you need is a good web host, and SiteGround has some awesome packages. Shared hosting is good to get started. Obviously, as your business gets bigger and more traffic and stuff, you may want to look at a VPS, but just getting started out, shared hosting is good. You can get a starter package from $9.95 a month, or with a discount that SiteGround are offering, the 70% discount, you get it even cheaper for the first year. So it's not very much for hosting. The other thing that you need is some software to manage the sales of your extension. So I really recommend Akiba Tickets, which you can buy from akibabackup.com, €40, and that includes Akiba Ticket System, Akiba Release System, and Akiba Doc Import, which are the three real critical extensions that you need for selling extensions. And Akiba Subscriptions is now free, so that's another one that you use. So just with those 4 extensions, you can pretty much run a Joomla extension business. So we're not talking about a lot of money, only a couple of $100 per year, and that's pretty much it for costs. The rest of it comes down to your own time, and if you're paying a developer, whatever costs they are, or if you're paying someone to do your support. But if you're doing it on your own, very low cost, and so you don't have to sell many extensions to recover your costs and make a good little side business out of it. So when it comes to documentation, here's a little a trick that I picked up from Nicholas from Akiba. He writes all his documentation in XML doc format, which I've started doing. And the reason why you do it like that is when you have a build script, thin build script that compiles your program, you can make it automatically turn that XML file into a PDF. So using XSLT proc, it converts it to a .fo file, and then FOP converts it from the FO file to the PDF. And so you end up with nice documentation that's all indexed PDF, and then you take that XML file, upload that onto your website, use Akiba Doc Import, and that'll make it a web-enabled version of that documentation. So now you've got web-based documentation as well, all from that XML file. And so every time you make changes to your extension and build it, it regenerates that documentation. And also, whenever you make changes to that XML file, you just build it again, upload that XML file to your site, and your documentation is always up to date. So it's a really good way of, customers really like it, and you can point them to specific areas in there. I often find when I get a common question, instead of just answering them in a support ticket, I write a bit of documentation, put that, update the documentation, and send them a link to the documentation. And sometimes they go, "Oh, I didn't realise it was in there." It's like, it wasn't. So it's really good.
Just a quick question about documentation stuff. So how do you then manage that for the various versions that you would be putting out as an extension?
I have like a different documentation file for different versions. Like from version 1 to version 2, I'd have a different file, but it depends on the extent of the changes. So when it comes to support, Akiba Ticket Systems is the way to go. I used to have a support forum, but I've gone away from that idea. You get a lot of spam when you have a forum, and you also don't get that many people contributing actual value. You get a lot of people posting on other support saying, "Oh yeah, I've got the same problem," and it turns out it's something completely different, and it just jumps up with things. So at least with support tickets, you can control the information that goes out there, and that's just to give you an idea of the sort of volume of support that I get from my extensions. So
sorry, what are the two?
In the last 30 days, you can see that each day averaging maybe 3 support tickets per day, and some days it's up to 13.
So what's the yellow or gold line?
I don't know. It's the graph that shows the black end of the keyboard.
I get the blue stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's probably an aggregate in a couple of days.
I don't pay attention to it much. I just look at the tickets that are in there, they're open, and deal with them. Some cool things about the Akiba Ticket System is it has the ability to do canned responses. So if you get common questions all the time, you can have these automatic responses set up. You just press that canned reply button, pick the response that's relevant, and that fills in the support ticket automatically with that common solution to the problem. So it saves a lot of time and keeps users happy. When it comes to selling your extensions, Akiba Subscriptions is the way to go. That's just an example there. I've got 3 different packages. You can control how many different packages and options that you have for your extension. I use 2 payment methods. PayPal is my preferred payment method, but I also use 2Checkout. And the reason why I use 2Checkout is because some people just hate PayPal and will never use it. And there's also a few countries that don't accept PayPal, whereas 2Checkout is a little bit more flexible. But I still prefer getting paid by PayPal. I probably get about 70% of my payments through PayPal, but it's good to have more than one payment option. And Akiba Subscriptions has all those plugins built in, very easy to configure and get going. So another cool thing about Akiba Subscriptions is that it ties in with the Akiba release system. So whenever you update your software and release an update, it will create an update stream, and so users will be able to see that there's a new version of that extension available. And because it's got the download ID built into it, only people who've purchased and have a valid subscription can access those updated files. Whereas if you're using just the Joomla core updater without using Akiba release systems, you've got no way to control who downloads it. Pretty much anyone can download it whether they purchase or not. Whereas with the Akiba release systems, in combination with the Akiba subscriptions, you make it so that only people who have a valid subscription can access the updates. So when someone purchases through Akiba subscriptions, it effectively adds them to a group that then gives them access to the downloads, the documentation, whatever else you want to give them access to. You can also do coupon codes really easily, which is great if you want to do discounts and that sort of thing. You'll notice on the back of your thing here in the coupon code there, I've got a coupon code for my survey product, giving you a free 6-month subscription. The other cool thing about Akiba subscriptions is that it allows you to generate PDF invoices. And it does this automatically. When someone purchases from you, they're automatically sent a PDF invoice with all the tax information that they need on there. So I used to do all my invoices manually, and since moving across to the Akiba subscriptions, it saves so much time, and users love it. And the other good thing is that they can go in at any time to your site and re-download a copy of their invoice if they have lost it for whatever reason. So that's just a screenshot from Akiba release systems. Just wanted to highlight there the update stream that's down the bottom here that says what product that you're updating, and you can control what subscription levels have access to that update and all those sort of things. So Fing, I don't know if anyone here has used Fing before, but it's a build script. I use Eclipse as my IDE, and every time I make a change in there, I go project build, and then that runs a Fing script. And my Fing script does all sorts of fancy things like copying the files from my dev location across to my dev site, so copy it across to my Joomla free site, across to my Joomla 2.5 site. It zips it up and makes the installation package, which I then upload to Akiba release systems. It also generates my documentation. You can do things like find and replace text. If you wanted to make a trial version of your product, you can have it copy files into another folder, do find and replace on a certain word, and then zip it up and have that as another package. You can do all sorts of really fancy stuff with Fing, and automating it just makes it so much easier. Whenever you make a change and do an update, it just saves so much time. So that's about all I was going to show you as far as the insiders to extension developers. Now I just wanted to spend a few minutes and show off a new toy. What if I told you that you could develop an extension that runs as a standalone PHP extension, but it also can run as a Joomla component, and it can also run as a WordPress plugin? Why the hell would you want to do this? Well, we know that the Joomla market is very big, 4 million customers. WordPress community is a lot bigger, probably 20 million customers. I'm not saying that you should move across to WordPress because it's bigger, I'm saying that you should do both. So why not create one package that you can just sell to everyone? And the way we can do that is with a new framework called AWF. Now this is written by Nicholas from Akiba, who also wrote Framework and Framework. And he's written it for his own needs to convert his Akiba backup software to work in WordPress and also as a standalone PHP version. He's released it as a new framework that anyone can use. It's all GPL and it's really cool. If you've used Framework and Framework before, you'll see a lot of similarities with it. You're basically programming in the Joomla way, but as a standalone component. So yeah, Nicholas wrote it. He's only just released it in September. So because it's very new, there's no examples yet and there's no documentation yet. There's just basically a GitHub repository and you can reverse engineer his stuff. But I've been playing with it and it's really nice. So when you build an application using AWF, you can run it as a standalone application, and when you upload the files to your server, it has a little install script that's very, very similar to Joomla, goes through, checks all the system requirements, all that sort of stuff, goes through all the database connections. It has its own configuration file and it has its own user management, which is based on Joomla pretty much. It's very similar. You can even do two-factor authentication, fancy stuff like that. When you're running this in a Joomla environment, it just basically ignores all this stuff and just doesn't use that bit. Same when you're using it in WordPress. Whenever it's running in a CMS, it uses the CMS's authentication. It doesn't use its own standalone ones. It only does this when it's running as a standalone application. So there's just an example of my survey software that I've been playing around with, trying to get it working in WordPress. You can see there that there's a control panel that looks pretty similar to what you'd see in Joomla. You can do list views, you can do forms, you can pretty much anything that you can do in Joomla, you can do it in this way. And the great thing is that you're programming in an MVC structure in a Joomla sort of way. You don't have to relearn how to use WordPress, so you don't have to learn how to do things standalone. You use your existing knowledge and you can make some really cool stuff. So when it's working in Joomla, AWF will be installed as a library, like framework into the libraries folder in Joomla. So that'll just be a library install file that when you install your extension, it'll install that if it needs it. If it doesn't, if it's already there, then it won't install it. You have to add in a few extra files to make it work in Joomla. The standard XML manifest when you're installing the file to say where all the files and folders are and stuff. The access file to say what permissions and things, and the config file with all your global parameters and stuff. But pretty much the application folder, in this case puller here, that is a standalone. When you run it as a PHP standalone application, you just basically have this bit. When you're running in Joomla, you just have a few extra files outside that make it all link in. Same when you're running in WordPress, you've got the application folder. In this case, they don't have a library folder to stick AWF in, so you've got AWF within your component, within your plugin. And so this is like the standalone version of it, and then there's just some helper files and a bootstrap file to get it working in WordPress and sort of translating some of the WordPress stuff into that. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, there's no documentation or examples yet. I am working on some examples. I was hoping to have some ready for today, but yeah, been busy. Haven't finished yet, but I'll be releasing that soon and hopefully get information out there.
Are you going to do a talk at one of the user group meetings?
Most likely, yeah. So when we look at supporting Joomla and WordPress, if you look at what the template clubs have done, they're pretty much all created their own framework. They've all done it in their own way. So you've got Rocket Theme using Gantry, U3 using Warp, Gavic Pro using the Gavin framework. They've all done it completely different ways. So this is kind of a unique opportunity to not make the same mistake with extensions. If we can all have one common framework that everyone uses and just make it a standard, then it'll be so much easier for everyone. And we'll be able to get WordPress guys contributing code towards us, contributing documentation, bug fixes, and saying we'll be contributing stuff back to them. Everyone works together and the whole open source community wins.
A lot of competition.
I don't see it as competition. I think it's good. So you can get AWF from Nicholas's site, which basically links you to the GitHub repository there. And stay tuned for more information. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this framework. So that's about all I have to cover today. Is there any questions? Yeah.
Do you know if that means that F0F will not be supported anymore?
Nicholas is still supporting F0F, but that's Joomla only. It's very tied in with the Joomla framework and it can't run without it. From a developer point of view, it's still quicker to develop something in FOF than it is AWF. You have to do a lot more manually in AWF because you're not relying on that
Yep.
underlying framework. So he's still planning on supporting F0 as well as AWF. But if you want to do multi-platform applications, use AWF. If you're only doing Joomla, use F0.
How is it managing your subscriptions and who's available or who's allowed to download your updates and whatnot from the components perspective?
Are you talking about Keeper subscriptions?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
how easy is it to deal with that?
When a person purchases a subscription, they get an account on your site and they get added to a group, purchase users, whatever the group is called. And when they log into your site, it comes up with a download ID, which is an encrypted form of their username and password passed through like an MD5 encryption or something like that. It gives this like 32 character string that's unique to that user. Whenever they change their password, that download ID changes, so they need to update it. You put that into the options of the component, and when they go to update it through the Joomla updater or through Keeper Live Update, it checks to see whether they've got a download ID in there. If it doesn't have a download ID in there, just wait let them update. If it does have the download ID, when it talks to the server, it's passing that download ID along with the URL that's requesting the update. And so then your server checks to make sure that's a valid user. If it is, it gives them access to the update. If it's not, it doesn't.
So how do you implement that from the components perspective?
There's just a little bit of code that you add in. It's only a few lines. I can refer you to that offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very easy to do.
For his new framework, how's he going to handle versioning? If you test against one version and then he releases a new version and multiple people using different versions of it?
I have no idea what Nicholas' plans are. I have to ask him. It's a good question.
That's the downside of using those type of frameworks.
It's only bleeding edge, so literally no one's using it besides Nicholas, and I'm probably one of the first people to start playing with it. So,
Can you actually embed it in your component opposed to using the libraries directory? That way there is no conflict.
Oh, you can do that, yeah. However you want to do it.